Hello everyone, and welcome to Beyond SEO with Growthack.io, where we explore what really drives growth for brands. From search and content to product, data and strategy, we get into the ideas and conversations that go way beyond SEO. I'm Glenn, and today I am joined by Ryan Jones from SEO Testing. Hi Ryan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, really excited to have you on today. Big milestone for us, first podcast for Growthack. So we're really happy to have you as the first guest. Off the camera, we were saying before, I found it really interesting how you and Kevin met when you're basically saying, oh, you went to the same event in London, I believe, and you basically got chatting and basically said, oh, where are you from? And both of us are from Nottingham. So it's like nice little setup to have you here today. So before we get into the episode and the topic of discussion today, if you could give a brief introduction to yourself and your background.
Yeah, so I feel like I started in marketing kind of how a lot of people start in marketing, in terms of I kind of just jumped into it with no idea what it really was. I didn't really have any idea what I wanted to do when I left school, other than the fact that I didn't want to go to uni. So that was like my whole thing. So left school at 16, knew I was good with computers and knew I enjoyed computer-based work. So found a digital marketing apprenticeship with an agency in Derby, and just ticked over 10 years in the industry now. So I still look young, but I feel really old. So.
Veteran.
Something like that.
Yeah. No, really excited to have you on. So just kickstarting today really with the topic of the discussion. One of the first questions that I wanted to ask was experimentation mindset. And there was a quote that you said in a previous episode that I really liked. I'm just going to read out to you, where it basically said, don't treat things as permanent changes. Treat things as hypotheses to test on. And when obviously SEOs or people in marketing or any industry in general are just getting into a new industry, it can kind of take a while to have that development mindset of, being able to or willing to test new things or try new ideas. So the first question that I wanted to ask you was, has where you're currently working at SEO testing changed or shaped the way you go about doing things in marketing in general, from just testing or anything else in particular? Yeah,
massively. Yeah. But I mean, the change kind of started before working at SEO testing, purely because the story of how, it's like a long story of how I ended up starting working at SEO testing. But prior to working there, I was actually one of their customers.
Oh, okay.
So I've been using their tool for 4 years now, something like that. And I think the biggest change for me was finding a tool that it was like really easy to do that stuff. And then I don't know whether you've heard Brendan Hufford speak about this. Yes, he's like an amazing growth-minded person. He talks a lot about cookie cutter marketing. So I think a lot of us have fallen into that kind of trap, or checkbox marketing is the actual term for it, of basically just going through. We do an audit. We've got this audit now. We have this list of stuff that we need to do, and then we're just going to go through this list. And for years, like that would work for a lot of people, and it worked for me as well, which was why I didn't really feel the need to change, and then started using SEO testing and just running tests on the things I was already doing.
Yeah.
And then realizing that, so this actually works more than I thought it would. I thought this was like a really small job, but it turns out it actually drives the needle like a lot.
Yeah.
And I thought this was like a really big job that I had to do, and it doesn't actually move the needle all that much.
Yeah.
So I think the sort of mindset shift started to change from that, when I realized that the things that I thought were really important aren't actually, they still move the needle, but not as much as I thought. And the things that I thought were less important were like, these are like really big things. So from there, I kind of tried to stay away from just having like endless lists of stuff to do, and starting with a few. We always start with ideas and stuff and things like that. So I think having a list of ideas, turning those into hypotheses that we can then test, and then using those test results to inform strategy going forward. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, that is such a good point, because I think as well, when I was obviously getting into SEO, I also follow that process of like, right, I need to tick all this off. Even if it's not even a significant task specifically that will move the needle, you kind of fall into that trap of like, right, I need to go through all of this endless list. And you end up getting to a point where, as you go further down in your SEO journey or marketing journey in general, you kind of over rely on that list, and you kind of get to a point where you stop questioning it, and you're like, oh, why am I actually doing this? Does this make sense to do this specific thing? Is this a high impact task? So yeah, kind of rechecking that list that you utilize that you've used for quite a while, and reviewing if something is still worth keeping or still worth doing. So that makes a lot of sense, and segues nicely into the next question, really, where when looking at businesses, why do you think that a lot of businesses tend to not have this testing approach? Because it kind of ties in with what I was saying before. They'll probably have like a list or tick box checklist to follow, and that list basically stops them from looking further beyond to be like, right, we have this, but is there anything else that we can look to test? But in your experience and what you've seen, why do you think most businesses tend not to try new things from what you've seen?
I think the simple answer is because for a while it's worked, right? So we've kind of like whether it's a business that uses a marketing agency or they do their own marketing in-house, these checklists and checkboxes have worked time and time again because we kind of are at a stage now where we understand the algorithm, we understand what moves the needle for a lot of sites, and especially if we're specialists in that particular industry, we know what things move the needle for that site type in particular. So like e-commerce, for instance, we'll know that technical changes are really going to be what's like driving the needle for that. Whereas like for a SaaS business, it might be more content-led and product-led and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I think the simple answer is that it has worked for a while. And I think this is where the conversation comes into like AI search and LLMs becoming more popular because we don't know anything about this really yet. I mean, we're starting to learn more and more, but we're kind of at this we're in this infancy now where we don't really fully understand yet what works for AI search. Yeah. And I think because of that, we're now transitioning into this testing mindset because we all want to rank in LLM because we know that the market shift is eventually coming. We don't know when it will happen where people will I don't know necessarily whether Google will be replaced and stuff, but we know LLM search is getting bigger and bigger. And because of that, we're really now trying to test new things to see what works in LLMs. And then people are realizing, oh, I can actually do this for search as well. Yeah. And so this growth that we've had beforehand, by using these checkboxes, we can say, oh, okay, now we can use this mindset in our SEO and normal digital marketing almost, and say that, okay, so we've had this growth for a while, but let's test to see what's worked. And now let's test to see what's working now. Yeah. Because the other point is, as well, is like with AI overviews, taking away a lot of those top of the funnel clicks is the kind of traditional online marketing might not work for a lot of businesses anymore. Like us, for instance, we've relied so heavily on top of the funnel content now. Absolutely. That's where a massive percentage of our growth came from. And now AI overviews are eating into those because they're just serving the answer that the people need in the AI overviews. Yeah. So now we're having to do our own testing approach again to find out what works and inform our strategy going forward as well.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that. I've been seeing a lot of stuff as well on LinkedIn about people saying, oh, scrap top of the funnel content, it's not working anymore. When I was like, oh, hang on, guys, I think you just need to rethink or re-review how you go about top of the funnel content. So it's, again, going back to the testing. And looking on that, when looking at specific campaigns, whether it's an SEO campaign or paid campaign, when do you think is the best time to test a campaign if you've been having it going for a while, or just seeing how it performs? When's the best time to kind of review things?
I think it's that old adage of the best time was yesterday, the second best time is today. Yeah. So, I mean, there's not really many points other than kind of if you're starting with a new agency, for instance, that a sort of marketing campaign will really just kick off from nothing. Yeah. I think a lot of businesses have had their marketing campaigns going for a while and things like that. So yeah, I think the best time to do it is really sit down and really have a think through what you've been doing, have a few tests lined up to test whether what you've been doing is working. Yeah. If it's still working, then that's fantastic, and you can keep doing that and reweight it depending on what the impact is. Yeah. But the beauty of it is you're bound to find things that won't work as well. And this is the biggest thing that we preach is testing allows you to find what works and what doesn't work, so you can double down on what works basically. So it eliminates a lot of wasted time. Like for us, we've tested our own strategy almost endlessly. So now that we know that we're only doing the things that push us in the right direction, and other than the things that we're testing that are like brand new ideas, which may work, they may not, we've kind of got to that stage where we've eliminated the things that don't work.
Yeah, 100%. And you just reminded me, actually, just came off the top of my head. In terms of like testing times, I know you said, the best time to test is, yesterday and whatnot. But if someone's looking to be very tactical with their testing, should it be phased in like quarters or every 6 months? If someone's looking to have like a defined way of like, I suppose, reviewing what they've done, how should they go about doing that?
I think the answer will be different for lots of different businesses, and it will also depend on the amount of traffic that's available. So bigger sites, for instance, they'll be able to launch tests and get statistically significant results much quicker than a smaller site can, which means that they can have a kind of a faster sprint almost. So they'll be able to test changes really quickly, analyze those results, and then move things on going forward. Whereas for a smaller site, it might be, like you say, it might be quarterly or something where they might need to run some tests for a full quarter in order to get those results, and then they can move things. So for bigger businesses, they might be able to do it sort of maybe even like 2 weeks. So they might be able to do 2 sprints per month or something like that. Whereas a smaller businesses that has like a lot less traffic, they might have to do it monthly, quarterly, that kind of thing. But the answer will be different for different businesses. But the biggest thing is just to even run one test on like your biggest traffic page to kind of get an indication on how long these things will take. And then from there you can obviously move forward with that.
Yeah, no, 100%, that makes sense. And looking at testing principles, so going beyond SEO and beyond just marketing in general, what are the principles that you've developed or attained over your time at SEO testing and also just in your career in general that you're utilizing outside of just marketing, just a total campaign perspective, really? What, I suppose the best way to rephrase it would be, how are you implementing testing principles within the marketing industry whenever you're doing campaigns or just looking at the approach for SEO testing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is getting into that frame of mind about asking questions rather than saying I don't know or saying it depends and things like that. And I had a conversation with Nick, our founder, recently, where we basically ended this meeting in agreement that we both need to be like asking more questions and things. And because like my role is for years and years, I was like very technical, like I was very SEO focused. And now I'm more in this kind of broader marketing role, and there's still things that I'm not particularly like good at yet. And it comes with the territory, obviously. Like marketing there's loads of new things coming in marketing like every single day almost. But the biggest mindset shift for me was asking questions, finding out like why do we think that this will work? Why are we doing this and that kind of stuff, or what can we do to make this work if we think it didn't? And then that applies to SEO, that applies to content marketing in general, that applies to social media, paid, even though I've not done like too much paid, but it applies to everything. Is start with questions, and then you can start with questions, and then as the answers come, the information comes, and then from there you become better.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. That makes sense. And day in the life. So what's a typical day like as a marketing manager at SEO testing?
Yeah, so it's pretty varied. I mean, I feel like that's like the kind of cliche answer, but yeah, it's pretty varied. But if we look at when I started, so I started about 2.5 years ago, somewhere around then. So whereas we hadn't even seen like these AI overviews coming in yet, so a day in life for me like looked really different back then. It was more like I've always been testing different things and running tests and having ideas, but primarily back then a lot of my role was content based. So it would be planning content, writing content, then distributing that and growing social media and that kind of thing. And now that we realize that marketing for us has kind of changed, my role's changed a little bit. So I am still writing content, I'm still distributing content, but the output is less. So rather than one post a week, it might be one post every month or every other month, but really making that like the best that I can.
Yeah.
Moving into like placing a much broader focus on social media, which is why you've probably seen me like everywhere on LinkedIn for about the past.
Appreciate the content. I like the content. So
that's good. But yeah, you've probably seen me everywhere on LinkedIn over the past sort of 6 months or so. So really placing like a big focus on that. So planning different ideas, writing those and seeing what comes to mind. Doing a lot more video content as well and still improving that. So primarily it might just be short form for LinkedIn, but now moving into sort of doing longer videos for YouTube and that kind of stuff. And yeah, but the primary thing is running tests, finding what works, what doesn't work. And then because we know that different things work now, I'm now like relearning and doing different things from that. So yeah, so pretty varied, very fun. A lot of data analysis tasks mixed with a lot of creative tasks as well.
Yeah. Got me thinking of another question, really, a bit of a selfish one. How do you manage all that in terms of like if you're a marketing manager and you obviously have to be involved in a lot of different things, how do you manage your time when handling all these different things?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the advantage is for us, we're such a small team. So SEO testing is 4 people. So we've got Nick, the founder, there's myself who runs marketing, we've got a developer, and then we've got operations manager. So that's the entire company, that's the entirety of SEO testing. So I think because we're such a small team, we have to be really focused in what we're doing, and we can't afford to waste time on things that aren't working. So it all starts with all of us having this testing approach. So like Nick will know what works for his role. I know what works for my role. Faith knows what works for her role and doing that. And then in terms of actually managing the list, I'm quite old school. I work with a lot of to-do lists, or so I have one primary to-do list in the week of, I'll sit down at the start of the week and plan the 3 biggest things that I want/need to get done. From that, then the list evolves into doing things like this and stuff as opportunities come along and things like that. But it always starts with the 3 biggest things that I want to get done that week. And then from there, filling in different time blocks into like different. So I'll have like an hour at the end of every Friday for me to dedicate to learning new things and looking at like articles that I've seen over the course of the week that are quite interesting and reading up on the industry and things like that. But yeah, so we all start with 3 key things at the start of the week, fill time from there, and obviously things shift, things move as things get more important, less important and things. But yeah, we're all really focused on doing what moves the needle, the biggest thing. And because we're a small team, that's pushed that so much. And that's been like the biggest thing for me. Like if I compare that to when I first started working in marketing, where it was, I would get given a list and then just execute on all of this, which like was great because it helped me learn different things. But now to really being absolutely focused on a few key things, and then depending on how long those take, then I have more time for different things and things like that.
Oh, awesome. Oh, that'll be useful for me. Yeah. Awesome. So now looking at SaaS, a big part of it obviously is the user acquisition, and you want to obviously keep the customer and ensure that they're part of the lifetime value for as long as possible. How do you handle, or what would you say is the best way to handle the onboarding and also the awareness section to getting that customer as well as the retention? What's the best way a SaaS business can go about doing that?
I think the biggest thing is communication. So like, and it will depend for different SaaS companies. Like some products just inherently will be more complex to use and things like that. Some will be like incredibly simple. So I think if you've got a product that is generally quite simple to use and easy to get on with, then you don't necessarily need to place as much focus on like the onboarding type. Whereas if you're a more complex tool, then you really need to focus, because that's where like the biggest point of drop off will be. Like people, because all SaaS is like have trials, like generally free trials, sometimes just cheap trials that people can jump on. So for things like that, like if you've got a more complex tool, you really need to focus on making sure people understand how to use it as quickly as possible, because if they get on it and there's not much support there, They're like, oh, this is blowing my mind a little bit.
Here?
And yeah, this is blowing my mind. I'll find something else.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've generally got a tool that's easier to get on with, you might want to spend more time in the sort of customer retention aspect, and that'll be like sales teams, it'll be customer success teams, all of that, making sure any queries are answered really quickly and things like that. And I think it just comes down to like good business sense almost. Like you don't want to let customers slip through the cracks. We want to make sure that every customer query we have is answered as quickly as possible. We're quite customer focused in the sense of a lot of the features that we release generally come from one of two places. They either come from our ideas that we think might be quite cool, or they'll come from customers running through like video calls with us saying how they use the tool, and then them actually requesting features saying this will be quite useful for us. Because we have certain types of customers, so we know that if something is useful for one customer, then it's generally going to be like productive for a large percentage of our customers as well. So which makes sense. So yeah, all our new features come from one of those two places. So it is always interesting, and then yeah, onboarding is almost its own thing entirely, because I think SaaS it's so messy almost. Like if you look at GA, like Google Analytics, like every different business will have different. If you just like look at where people come from, like it's so rare now to see someone will land on the website, sign up to a trial, and then that's great.
Yeah,
they might land on the website, then they'll leave, then they'll come back through social media, or they'll come back through a retargeting ad or something like that. And the customer journey is like so messy.
Yeah, it's more scattered than scrambled eggs.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the overwhelming thing in terms of onboarding is making sure you're where your customers are, where they hang out, and making sure that you're showing your features and why your tool helps solve problems, basically. Because everyone has different problems. If you can put your solutions top of mind, whether that's through your website, whether that's through social media, whether that's through YouTube or anything like that, just saying, hey, we know what problems you've got. Here's how we solve it, and here's where you can sign up. And then that's like the biggest thing. So we have customers come from all over the shop. So we've got people will land on our site, on blog posts, they'll come through social media, they'll come through newsletter sponsorships, they'll come through YouTube videos. And we have, obviously, organic is like our biggest percentage of new customers, but yeah, in terms of like filling up the rest, it's just scattered. So we know that our job is to be in as many places as possible, basically, but making sure that we're also where our customers hang out.
Yeah, that's really important nowadays as well for a lot of brands. Just obviously it's a challenge, but making sure, like what you said, you're in places where your ideal target audience are going to be. That's going to be such an important thing. And how you structure that will obviously depend on how big you are as a business. So kind of creating a clear strategy that's aligned with, right, we're not going to try and target every single channel because you might be, tied on resources, but looking at the key channels that are going to have the highest impact, kind of going back to the kind of time management aspect of things, looking at the, I suppose, maybe big three or key top channels that you can focus on. Then as obviously your resources increase, that's when you can look to expand out of it. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah, for us, we do it surprises some people, but we do very little paid. So beyond sort of, we sponsor a few newsletters, we might sponsor the occasional podcast and things like that if it makes sense for us. But yeah, in terms of actual paid advertising, we don't do too much of it. So yeah, because we know that I'm sure we can get more customers if we did paid, but we know that a large percentage of our customers are hanging at, like, they're finding us through blog posts still. Don't know how much longer that will last, but well, that's an entirely different conversation. But we know that they're finding us through LLMs now, which is why we're placing a bit more of a focus on that. We know that they're still finding us through YouTube. We know that they're finding us through social media. So for us, it's like, why would we? I mean, I'm sure it would be interesting to do it and just to see what happens. But like, we know that our customers are here, and here. Yeah. So let's focus on here, and here until something changes and people stop using one particular thing. Yeah,
no, 100%. That makes sense for sure. And when looking at SaaS, how does it compare to other, I suppose, specific niches like e-commerce or B2B service related aspects of just in marketing in general? Because it's a completely different beast, and obviously there's other different beasts, e-commerce, like I said before. How does SaaS differ from the others?
It differs a whole lot. And having spent a lot of time, like prior to me being at SEO testing, I worked for a UK-based e-commerce brand. So and then before that, I was doing a lot of agency works for different B2B companies. So I think I've kind of seen it all from different perspectives and things like that. But yeah, it's incredibly different. I mean, if you look at e-commerce, for example, one of like the biggest customer acquisition funnels could be paid. In terms of shopping ads, some people searching for running shoes, for instance, and you making sure that some of your best running shoes are appearing in those ads. Or it might be doing a bit of social media marketing. So when someone's like me, who spends hours of time, so I don't use TikTok really, but I use Instagram Reels a lot.
Because I know if I try TikTok, I'm gone. My attention's taken.
I waste a lot of time on Instagram Reels, and I buy a lot more products than I'm care to admit when scrolling through these ads and stuff. Oh, okay, that looks interesting. I might buy that. Or it might be like, it's very rare for an e-commerce business where someone lands on a blog post and like from their website and then says, "Oh, okay, this is interesting. Now maybe I'll like." It happens, but it's the percentage is quite low. Whereas the traditional sort of acquisition funnel for a SaaS brand would be someone searches for their problem on Google or Bing or whatever, lands on a blog post. We solve the problem for them, and then they say, "Oh, okay. Oh, they've got this product that might be quite interesting." But then even that in itself of landing on a blog post, starting a trial is still quite rare, because they might land on a blog post, we solve their problem for them, and then they're like, "Brilliant!" Like leave the blog post, go and do other things, and then they might see us on social media or see me on a podcast or something and go, "Hold on, I know that brand." Because they helped me when I had this problem. I read one of their blog posts and it was interesting, and then they might come to the website directly. They'll search, like if for us, for instance, they'll search SEOtesting.com and come back that way, and then maybe they'll start a trial. And then B2B is different in itself, because that will be someone searching for a pretty like short keyword like industrial screws or something. We got to make sure that we're really high up for that. And then when someone lands on it, then it goes into an actual sales team, because someone's going to ring up and say, "I need X amount of this. What's like your best price?" and things like that. So it's different for every industry. And I think that a lot of tactics are the same, but they'll be weighted in different ways. Like for us, we know that like as a SaaS brand, content still moves the needle a hell of a lot for us. Whereas e-commerce, it's going to be primarily technical. And B2B, it will just be doing whatever works to get to the top of Google for these like business-based keywords, and then handing it all over to the sales team. So yeah, it's the same but different.
Yeah, funny enough, you just reminded me of a crazy case study where I was working at a previous agency, and we basically had this new e-commerce client, and we're just looking at the pre-existing strategy that they had before. And the strategy was literally just a blog content strategy. So they basically didn't focus on the category pages or anything like that. It was just like a content.
For an e-commerce?
Yeah, I was just like, okay, that's interesting. What inspired this? So, but yeah, like they were just like, yeah, this is what the previous agents that we're working with were following. So I was just like, oh, that's a interesting choice. But yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've done it in the past. Like my previous role, we had. Bizarrely, we had it was a business that sold rugs and things like that, and that's pretty much all they did, rugs and homeware. But yeah, we had a blog post that just ranked ridiculously well for like rugs for underfloor heating. And it was, but like rather than it serving product pages and things like that, it served a blog post of like what types of rugs are suitable for underfloor heating and things like that. And they had this blog post, and it was very top of the funnel. And we just realized that we weren't mentioning any products at all. And we're like, oh, okay, well, maybe it makes sense to when we talk about this type of rug, let's actually link to some product pages. And it added something ridiculous. It was like 50 grand in new business that year just by adding those. Oh, wow. Because we had like so many people landing on it. So like, I imagine it works to an extent, but that's not like the main, that was just like an idea we had, like, oh, kind of would make sense to do this. But, yeah, and so it wouldn't be like my main strategy. Just like, I don't think I would look at an e-commerce site and then be like, yeah, let's focus everything on top of the funnel content.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's kind of like goes back to what you were saying before. It's like each niche has, I suppose, different buckets where you should, I suppose, put water in. So like e-commerce, for example, you want to focus on, commercially related stuff like the category pages. So you'd pour most of your water or resources in this case into that bucket. SaaS, obviously more content related stuff like what you said, to get the potential new audience to be familiarized with your product through the information. So yeah, it's like understanding that split really. That's really important. Now looking at just brand identity for SaaS. Obviously SaaS is really, really competitive. What is the best way to, I suppose, carve out yourself as a brand in that industry? Because honestly, it's so competitive.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite strategies is and it goes back to the sort of old marketing adage of people buy from people. Like we all know this. Like I mean, e-commerce is slightly different. People buy from brands generally and things like that. Like I have a much stronger. I'm wearing Puma trainers today, but I have a strong preference for Nike generally. So like e-commerce, like people buy brands and stuff. But I think for anything informational and anything sort of SaaS and things like that is and it goes to B2B as well. Like if you've got a really good sales team who really care about your customers, people are more likely to buy from you because they have that really good experience. But yeah, I think in terms of like the sort of knowledge worker space, people buy from people. Yeah. So that's why you see like these like LinkedIn creators who are really good, but it's because they resonate with people, right? So for us, it's a case of me building my personal brand and Nick, our founder, building his personal brand and things like that. Because I know that if I do like a podcast, for instance, and it really resonates with people, then they might be inclined, okay, I'll have a little look. Or if I do a really good talk somewhere and then people will say, okay, that was an interesting one, I'll sign up for that. So I think, yes, obviously the company brand is obviously important. We've got to make sure that people who do use us have good experiences, so then they're more likely to recommend us and things like that. But in terms of actually getting people through the door, like your brand is one thing as well, but don't ignore that personal brand as well. Have at least one face to the business and make sure that they're like the public facing face. So like for us, I am probably at the minute the most public face for SEO testing, purely because I do this kind of stuff and I go and do talks and things. But yeah, branding is one thing, but yeah, definitely don't ignore the personal brand, because more than anything, it just goes back to that whole thing of people do buy from. If I like a person and then they release something, I'm more likely to check that out than if I don't know them and I just scroll through something on LinkedIn. It's like if I scroll through something from one of like my good friends, I'm going to be like, oh, straight away I'm going to like look at that. Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest things.
No, that makes sense. And you just remind me of a question that I was asked a while ago when somebody was talking about how do I connect my personal brand with my, I suppose, company or business. And I think it kind of connects with what you just said there, in the sense that people, if you've got a good personal brand, if you build that up and people start getting familiar with you, then that's when they can be like, oh, what does he do? Or where is he based? Like, then that's how they can kind of draw that connection. Yeah. But is there any potential way that you can also, or any other potential stuff that you can do to better connect, so that when people do come across you, they can kind of better associate or discover that company? Or is it still just ideal to just have that personal brand and people just kind of put two and two together?
No, I think it can be interchangeable, right? So like, for us, like video is becoming an even larger part of my role. So like we've got a pretty big YouTube channel already. We kind of haven't done anything for a little while on it, but we want to start doing more and more. But making sure that like my face is on those videos, even though it's connected to, like, just because it's a video being posted to a brand account doesn't mean that it has to be faceless and things like that, and just talking through different things and having like animation style stuff. It's like, just because it's a branded channel, it doesn't mean that I can't have my face on there. And at the same time, like when we think of like social media, like just because it's my personal social media doesn't mean that I can't talk about the brand, and vice versa. Just because it's a branded social media profile doesn't mean that I can't like share my personal posts, or we can share pictures of the staff who work there. It can all be interchanged. Like if it, like, look at your website, for example, like you're very like, you've got an about page, there's people there, like that is personal branding in a sense. And same for us, we have an about us page because we don't want to be this nameless, like faceless brand. We want people to be able to know who we are, what we do, and how we're going to help people individually. So like when people look on our site, they know that Nick is the one who does product demos. So so if I sign up for a demo, I'm having a demo with Nick, and I like Nick, and he's great. Or if they watch one of our videos and they see my face, and then they come across me on social media, they're like, oh, I recognize him. Like, they might not even recognize the brand at this stage, but they recognize me, and that kind of thing. So it can all be intertwined.
Yeah, 100%. Era of the brand, I always like to say. It's the era of the brand.
It is the biggest thing. And we know that, like, even if you want to link it to LLMs and stuff, like, LLMs favor brands and things like that. So, so, like, I think branding is crucial, but just because company branding is important as well doesn't mean that personal branding isn't, and vice versa. Just because personal branding is important doesn't mean that company branding isn't.
Yeah, 100%. And now looking at testing and also what you've seen work within SaaS, from your experience, what have you noticed tends to be the most effective channel for SaaS?
So for us, it's always been generally, I mean, it's changing now slightly, but we won't necessarily talk about, I'll just talk about what's working now. So for us, it's always been top of the funnel content and stuff. That's really, like, our blog is like one of the biggest percentages of things that people visit. So, like, top of the funnel content still works to an extent, and then we do different things within that to really try and push the blog forward. So we do a lot of new content. We do a lot of content refreshes, which is like a massive thing for us. Like almost every test we've ever run on a content refresh has led to an increase in clicks, which is why it's a big part for us. But like, top of the funnel content still works. Word of mouth referrals for us and a lot of other SaaS companies are massive. So don't ignore that. And that then links into how customer retention still links into marketing. It can't just be its own thing. So, like, making sure that customers are incredibly happy when they use us, so then they're more likely to recommend us to people that they know and things like that. Like, our two biggest things have been top of the funnel content or word of mouth referrals. And that's been, like, the biggest thing. And then within those two categories, there's different things that we've tried and different things that we've done that have worked and not worked and things. But those have been the two biggest things for us.
Yeah. You got me thinking, actually, when it comes to, like, word of mouth, for some reason, it doesn't feel like it's it's talked about a lot, but it doesn't feel like a lot of businesses actually implement it like effectively from what I've seen. What's the best way to handle that? I
mean, it works differently for different things, but I think it starts with realizing that word of mouth is still it's still a marketing channel. I think a lot of businesses think of word of mouth as just a thing that happens. Like, oh, we made a good product, we have a good sales team, we have a good onboarding team, and that leads to people recommending us. But no, it's its own marketing channel. So that's like we'll have, that comes with, like, really, like, if you've got a group of users who are, like, really, like, they love your tool and they, like, start talking about it on your social media, they can almost become brand ambassadors. Whether that's an official partnership is up to you. But, like, we have a lot of people who use SEO testing, and then because it's so useful to them, then they'll share it on social media, and then people might sign up. If Kevin, for instance, shares something about a test that's really worked, and people go, oh, that's cool, how did you do that test? And he says SEO testing, and then people go, oh, okay, I'm going to look at that, I might even sign up. That is, like, an example of the word of mouth channel being used as, like, an actual marketing channel. So yeah, brand ambassadors are huge. You can do that through paid affiliates, or you can do that organically. Like, we have, like, Eleda Solis has been quite a big one for us. And that's just because, like, we share a lot of Eleda's content because it's so useful, and she shares a lot of our content because it's useful. And that's an example of, like, a sort of unofficial partnership, but one that yields a lot of fruit for us.
Yeah.
And hopefully Eleda as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure. And next question is inspired by a LinkedIn post that I saw that was talking about basically brand identity, or just brand in general, versus acquisition. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this, where from a SaaS perspective, is it better to be focused on brand? I feel like I'm answering the question myself here, just thinking about it, but is it better to focus on brand, or is it better to focus on acquisition tactics? And by acquisition tactics, I mean, like, cold outreach, cold emails, or just hitting the customer in a situation where they're not really familiar with you. Or is it, I imagine it's probably a combination of the two, but what's the best way to handle that, and what would you kind of recommend?
I think it's a combination of the two, but I think it has to start with brand. So if you, like you just mentioned cold outreach there, like we do a little bit of cold outreach on LinkedIn and places like that. But if we don't have a good brand, like if people search us online and reviews are bad and like we've got low star ratings popping up all over the place and we have like bad G2 reviews and things, then that cold outreach is probably in a lot of cases going to be pretty meaningless. Like we can write like the best cold outreach email ever, but then if someone looks at G2 and is like, oh, they're only rated like 1 star and people are saying that it's not a great product and the team aren't helpful and things, like that is all part of brand.
Yeah.
And so I think it starts from brand, like making sure the branding's there, the website is on brand and helpful, making sure that the tool's great and everything like that. And then the sort of acquisition tactics work better, like cold outreach works better, social media works better, content in itself works better. So it's definitely a combination of the two. Like one can work without the other, but it's super important to be combined. And I think that all starts with brand and then it rolls on from there.
Yeah. Without trying to sound too hippie, it's all connected, man. You have to do everything. It's all connected. Yeah, that makes sense. And now when looking at a new SaaS business or a startup, essentially, what's the best way to handle resources? So whether that's time, staff amount, when looking to really get the brand up and going, because I can imagine it can be a little bit tricky to try and do everything at once, especially if you're just starting your SaaS business. So what would be the best way for a startup to handle their resources?
Oh, I think it depends. Is it a bootstrap startup or is it seed funded? Because I think the answer changes completely differently. Because I think if someone's had like a lot of funding, then they could just like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Basically, they can just put so much money into different things. But if we assume bootstrap startup, which is going to be the majority of startups, especially SaaS, it's very rare for a SaaS to get funding without being at least bootstrapped for a little bit. And like that's our case as well. Like we were entirely bootstrapped until we went through tiny seed and things like that. But yeah, so for them, I think going back to testing, I think it starts with testing, finding what works. But I think it is the same for a lot of websites in the sense that start with making sure the website's technically sound. It's not that hard to do. There's so many resources online at the minute that allow us to have a website that is like technically sound. So start with that. Then start talking to people who they don't have to be customers because you're a startup, but start by talking to people who could be customers. Like reach out to them on LinkedIn and say, I'd like to have like a quick 10-minute call with you in exchange for money for like I'll send you a Starbucks voucher or something. Like people are very receptive to that kind of thing because I think people just generally want to be helpful and things like that. So start with having conversations with people who could be customers, find out where do they hang out online, what places do they visit, what problems have they got, and then start writing content to solve those problems and don't focus on just like half solving the problem and then throwing your product there and saying this will get you the rest of the way. But focus on being incredibly helpful, solve the problem in its entirety, make sure people have like a good perception of you and who you are. And then from there, when you solve problems, I think trials and therefore new business and revenue comes from that. Like if we take us for instance, our tool works primarily based on Google Search Console. So at the very start, like even before I joined, like Nick sat down and was like, well, if our tool is primarily based on Google Search Console data and making that more useful, it makes sense for us to solve problems on Google Search Console. So when people have issues with Google Search Console, let's solve those problems for them. And then just at the end, we'll just mention that we have a tool that makes it more usable and things like that. But we'll focus on solving the problem first. And then we've now got like a content cluster that generates thousands and thousands of page views. And all we're doing is just solving the problems that people have with Google Search Console. And then we don't have many CTAs on the blog. We just have like a little bit of text at the bottom just being like, oh, if you found this helpful, then you might find SEO testing helpful and things like that. And we get a lot of like our CRM tracks, like where their first visit was when they sign up for trials and things, if they've obviously got cookies allowed and things. But Yeah, well, the amount of people that their first visit is one of those Google Search Console blog posts is incredible, and things like that, or people who explicitly mention the article and things like that. But yeah, I think it starts with asking questions. It starts with being helpful. It starts with testing. And then from there, the strategy kind of reveals itself to you.
Yeah. I like what you said before in a previous show where you said you basically want to save people time.
Yeah.
Because and I think you said before that most of the stuff that you could do in SEO testing, you could do yourself, but it's just a massive headache trying to do yourself. So like being able to, I'm guessing you've got loads of content around how it can save you time with SEO testing. That's so useful. So that makes a lot of sense for sure when trying to make sure if you are going to be targeting an audience, really pinpoint what is it that you do as a business that can really kind of solve the key problems.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you can solve a big problem, then obviously you can get a lot of like big returns from doing that. So
our entire marketing strategy comes down to the 3 core values that we have, that which Nick sat, like before I joined the business, Nick sat down and said, well, what are our core values going to be? And all they are is share everything we know. So we don't want to gatekeep information. We're going to share, if we know something that can help people, we're going to share it, whether that's through a blog post or a YouTube video or a short LinkedIn video or something like that. It then comes out, like you say, saving people time is another one of our core values. And then make SEOs and other marketers feel valued as well. And that's where the testing comes in. So you can run tests, show what works, and then say, oh, we did this and it led to this. But yeah, the biggest one has always been to save people time. We're aware and we show people how, in some instances, how to do it without any tools. All you need is a spreadsheet software, Google Search Console, Google Analytics, and some time. But it takes a lot of time to export the data, put it into a spreadsheet, make it like readable, and then like maybe you want to create dashboards and stuff from that. So then we'll do all of that for you. So all you have to then do is log into SEO testing and log a test. But it's nothing new. It can all be done. If you have the willingness to sit there for 6 hours and do it, then that's absolutely fine. Yeah. But the reality is you might want to spend $50 a month on a tool that saves you those hours. Yeah. And that's like our entire marketing strategy, like simplified. There's different bits it comes into in terms of finding what works and doubling down and things like that. But it all starts with our core values.
And when looking at SaaS, when it comes to SEO, has there been anything or any time where you've gone against the conventional wisdom of what to do within SaaS, and you've, like I said, gone against that grain of thought and it's worked out?
Yeah, so I mean, not necessarily in SaaS in itself, but this goes back to something that I was told very early on in my career when I was working for a marketing agency, and back then I think content was very siloed in a sense of if it's written content, it's written content. If it's video content, it's video content. And that's changed thanks to like people like Ross Simmons with Create Once, Distribute Forever and that kind of stuff. But I always thought, I think it's because I learn differently. For me, reading information and trying to take that in is quite hard for me to understand.
I'm in the same boat.
I'd love to like watch a video or something, or even better to actually see someone do it and then go, okay, I know how to do that now. So I remember asking this question ages ago and saying, oh, well, we've written this, I think this guide was something ridiculous, 8,000 words or something. It's huge. It took a lot of time, a lot of money to create. And I was like, well, we've put all this budget into it anyway. Why don't we just make a video to go along with that? Just because not a lot of people want to scroll through 8,000 words and try and read it and make
especially
notes.
Nowadays.
Yeah. So I was like, so why don't we make a video and just run that alongside just at the top of the fold? People can watch if they want to. If not, they can read the guide. And yeah, I was just told no, basically. They were like, we've spent enough money already. We're not going to do that. And the guide did well and it led to new business. It's great. And then we just started testing something. We started testing something that when I think we were doing it before I joined, might have been like slightly after I joined, where every like blog post for at least for a time, every blog post that we produced, we then produced a video alongside it. Okay. And then put that at the top of the fold. And not all of the video tests that we ran were used. It depended on like the length of content and stuff. But we found that like the longer the content, the more people are going to want a video. And the amount of clicks that we got post adding this video in, and because it works in 2 stages for us. So it was like, one, the video might then pop up on Google and things like that. People will watch it from there. Two, people land on the guide, watch the full 5, 6, 7, 8 minute video, and then that increases time on page and all these on-page metrics that Google say they don't use, but they actually do.
Yeah.
And then that giving us a boost from there, and then the whole cycle continues. Like Google sees the page as more useful because people are spending more time on it. Google then increases the pages, like it makes it rank better, people click more, and the whole cycle continues. So it just does go back to that story of like me just like a few years ago just being told flat out, no, you can't do this. Yeah. To then me being given the freedom to experiment with stuff like that, finding out that it works, and now it's been like a pretty key like strategy for us.
Yeah, you know what? You just reminded me. That's a really good point, because I think when I was still getting into SEO, obviously you're the junior, you're just starting out, you're getting used to things, and if you have an idea, sometimes it can get shut down pretty quickly. And I know in my own experience, there's been situations where obviously when I was starting out, give a recommendation, be like, oh, I think we should try this, get shut down. Then it can kind of halt the progress of look at things to potentially test in the future. And going back to what you said before, the quote that I first read out to you, that you said before in the previous show, that if you're not having that approach or mindset, which I think that mindset can get prevented from growing within a lot of people because of the early experiences of being a junior, being told, oh, that won't work. You have to really kind of remind yourself as you kind of become more senior within not just SEO, but just marketing in general, that you should always have that mindset. Even if somebody says, no, that won't work, you should always be thinking, well, what else can we try? Yeah. So that's really important for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that entire thing of like it's very rare that Nick will tell me no to things. It instead of it being a no, it will be like, well, run a test. Does it work? If it doesn't work, then it becomes a no because we know that it doesn't work and things like that. But if it does work, then it's a sense of like, okay, now we can keep going with it and things. Yeah.
And also now when looking at SaaS in general, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from being within the industry of SaaS?
I think the biggest lesson has been that marketing is very interconnected, and it is becoming more interconnected. Like if we look at SEO, for example, we know that SEO is no longer just Google. SEO comes into whole different things because Google show videos and things and things like that in the SERPs, and there's more and more SERP features, being AI modes coming in and all of this. And like previous to working in SaaS, I was very siloed. I was very much an SEO specialist. I was very good at SEO. That's what I did. Whereas now, looking at the marketing funnel as a whole and realizing how actually interconnected it is, like our social media marketing won't work as well if our on-page content isn't great and things like that. So working out that whether you have a team of specialists or just a team of generalists and things, really making sure that they are interconnected and working hand in hand almost.
Yeah, no, awesome. That makes sense. And final question. What's one big success or failure in general in marketing that has shaped your view towards growth or how you approach growth for a brand?
Yeah, it starts with a failure and then ends with a lesson. But I left marketing for a little bit of time and worked in sales. Quickly realized that I was not cut out to work in sales. I absolutely hated the job.
Grueling.
It was very traditional sales job. Hated every second of it. And I realized I wasn't very good at sales. But I realized then the importance of, like, if you are working in marketing in any capacity, whether you're SEO, whether you're paid, whether you're social media, whether you're a combination of all those different things, like whether you're a generalist and that kind of thing, spend some time. Like the amount of people that still don't spend time with their business's sales team or listen to sales calls or watch demos and things like that. Spend time learning about your sales process. Find out what questions people are asking, because it's very easy to look at a keyword list and say, these arbitrary keywords are good, let's create content for these. What's going to be better in the long run is listening to a sales call, saying, oh, that was a really good question that they asked and we don't have content for that. Let's make content for that, because that's where new business is going to come from. Again, it comes back to solving problems. And one of the easiest way to do that is finding out what problems people actually have. And the biggest way to do that is ask customers or listen to sales calls, spend time with the sales team.
And are there any exciting stuff or projects that you're currently working on at the moment?
Yeah, so lots of new features coming to SEO testing that we're working on internally. We're not far away from releasing at least one new feature that should be coming within the next 1 to 2 weeks at the time of recording. And then, lots of talks coming up. So Romania at the end of this month, Barcelona in November, Lisbon in April. So
nice.
lots of talk prep for that. Just planning slides and things and stuff alongside what I already do. So everything's exciting.
Awesome, nice little world tour there. Oh, that sounds good.
European tour at the very least. I'll aim for the US next year.
Yeah, no, awesome. And for listeners, if they want to connect or get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Yep, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Ryan Jones. If you just search Ryan Jones SEO, you can generally find me. I'm active on X, Blue Sky, or you can find, if you want to email me, you can find my email address on the SEO testing website, which is just seotesting.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that, Ryan.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me on.
And if you are an e-commerce or B2B brand that's looking for growth, be sure to get in touch. We've got space just for a few more clients before the end of this year. And we only work with clients that are a great fit for us, and hopefully we're a great fit for you. So be sure to get in touch and let us know. Thank you.